eventually I want some sound for the percussion, so I'm going to go in the instrument. I'm going to go and get the drum rack. And for the bass, I'm just going to go for something very simple. I'm going to go with operator. So operator is, sometimes people ask me like, oh, is this good enough, or should I buy another soft synth? Will it do the job? The answer is yes. Operator does a really great job. And the bass line, I usually like to have sine wave. It's warm, it's natural, it does a really good job, and let's see how it sounds. So the tone right now is not really what I want. So now we have like a lower note, much more interesting. And for the drum rack, I'm gonna drop a kick because that's what we start with. So just want to make sure that I didn't put it on, C0, which is wrong. I'm gonna show you why. So I'm gonna pitch this to C1 because drum rack C1 is the lowest. So I'm gonna get a kick and I'm gonna drop it in here. I have a lot of kick. Some are great, some are not. And you know, some people are saying, why aren't you making your kick yourself? I mean, the answer is pretty simple, which is I want to get something going. I want to get something going pretty fast. So I'm going to drop a kick in here. Like I said, it's going to be generic, and I'm going to shape it and build it later on. So this kick I like. I'm going to drop it here. Otherwise, one thing that I really like is to check for 808. 808 is like my go-to when it comes to music. Some people prefer 909, some prefer tense bar, some people prefer Vermona. I guess 808 always worked for me. So I'm just gonna drop it, this one here, might swap it. Cool. I got the structure, the really most basic thing in my song right now is the low end and the kick. With the drum rack installed in the operator, we got the basic part. So if you think about a song, it's a bit of a structure like a house. Now we have the foundation, we have the floor, and we're gonna build up. Now we need the walls. The walls are gonna be kind of like the main idea in the song, and they're gonna be like the pillars of the song. If you remove the walls, you're gonna have your foundation, which will work, but it's gonna feel quite empty, just like a house without walls, which is a bit absurd, but you know, you get it. And I'm going to drop another MIDI channel. One thing that I like for generating ideas is Roser. Roser is a free tool that you can get. I'm just gonna drop it here, and again I'm gonna go get another operator, drop it after, and if I play, so Roser, what it does is very simple. It generates melodies, and then after that you can sort of moderate it. That would be the right term. And just speaking of which, I find that electronic music is often more, we're often more into the role of being a moderator or creative director, where we have these options, and then after that we are going to decide what we do with them. Because since there's no rules about electronic music, and it's like a really free form and a free place to explore, sometimes it can be really overwhelming of everything that you can do. So where do we start? So the idea of having random ideas is pretty much as if I would try to come up with a random idea myself. So I could ask the computer to generate an idea, and then I kind of shape it in what I hear sounds interesting and see what happens with that. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to use Roser to generate ideas for me. And one thing that it'll do is if I click here, it's gonna really propose, as you see, different notes. These little lines here are notes. See that? I mean, the first idea that it proposes is already, I find there's potential to be doing with this. If you like to have a special color for your song, you can decide of a different scale that you have here. I like to go for Techno chromatic, works really well. Pentatonic works really cool. Minor melodic can be interesting as well. And the rest works, but I find that it might end up being a little bit quirky, but it works, you know, like something can be done with anything. It's up to you. And I think as an artist, it's important to define your artistic direction, and I really invite people in general to explore all these scales, and one day you just sit there and generate ideas in different scale to see how it looks like, how it sounds, and if it just resonates for you. In my case, I like to go chromatic. It's pretty simple. It rarely fails. And then after that, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna play it and hear what it gives. So what I'll do is I'm gonna be recording this. So this audio here says audio from. I'm capturing the information from operator is playing here. So the sound is coming in here. So if I do record here, we can see that now the signal is coming, but since the audio is set to off, we don't hear it, we just see that it's happening here. So if I record, come here, it's recording the information. And that's, for me, it's a hook. I just need to start with that. You know, I recorded this, it's the same thing, but sometimes what I do is I just randomize in real time, while I'll come here and I'll play with these things and see what will happen with that. One thing I wish it was Roser was doing was just provide more MIDI output. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to record here. So these are the notes that I'm playing. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to slow it down. So this is what we call in the modular world, we call that a divider, but it's also changing the speed of the sequencer. This is called a sequencer, of course. So we were in 1/16. If you remember when I was in this clip, we could see the speed here, and now it's the same thing. This is a speed that I wanted to be playing. So if I'm just gonna put these notes on. And it proposes really random chord progression that could be really interesting if I want to use other synths. I like this part here, it's pretty cool. I'm gonna go to 1/2. 132. Actually, I'm gonna be trying something funky. I'm gonna go here. It's a different timing. It sounds a bit off, but sometimes something can come out of this. And that's like a way of being a little bit off grid, or not to be too much stuck with like the regular 4/4 structure that I want. I want to be a little bit off. Now I'm gonna just randomize it again. So as you see, it's still in chromatic, so these notes would work with the previous notes that we have, but it's just the order has been changed. And like I said previously, right now we're creating content, but in MIDI. I'm recording this in MIDI. As you see, it's being drawn and we see like really random notes. That's going to be really useful because when I'm gonna have multiple synths playing, I'm gonna always use this MIDI signal and send it to different synths. And then these synths are always going to be in the same key, and I'm gonna be moderating the different sequences, and hopefully with a bit of luck, it's gonna be interesting enough. Okay, so we recorded MIDI, and one thing I wanted to say is I spend a lot of time searching. I like to call this, you know, in the Klondike, the gold seeker, like the gold rush, they would have their, I don't know all the terms in English, but these things to go in the river, and then they would just look for gold, and sometimes they would have like little things, and sometimes they would have a lot of rocks, and you know, it needs patience. And a quote from a director that I love, which is David Lynch, said the same thing. He said, shallow ideas are like when you go fishing and you go for, you know, for the fish that are there, you're gonna get like random stuff, but you can also take your time and go for the deeper ideas, like the most beautiful and weirder stuff by digging, and accept that the first ones are going to be like, okay, this is interesting, and then the more you dive in and the more you search, then eventually you find like these really interesting sequences. And it's a little bit like that, you know. I sometimes can be really content with like the first thing that I find, but sometimes I really need to let inspiration and let ideas come and see. But that, you know, like it demands a lot of exploration. So if we continue what we're doing, now I have MIDI sequences here, and we know it works well with this. So I'm just gonna have a listen at operator playing operator. Sorry, Roser playing operator, and I'm gonna test some really random presets. Now I know some people are gonna be like, oh my god, you're using presets. I'm not using presets. Presets are like a starter. It's like a starting point. I start here. This is like, okay, this is the kind of tone that I want. This is the kind of mood that I want to go for. And then I shape it, you know, I'll shape it, and then by the end it will be something completely different. So the good thing about Operator is it has some pretty interesting presets. I'm just gonna explore a few, and sometimes what you hear in here, once you put it in there, is that two different things. So This is operator at its most simplest. I kind of like this already. I have no idea why, but sometimes I come to the studio and everything I do, I'm like, oh, okay, I can see the potential of this. And some days I come, I'm doing the exact same thing, and there's nothing that feels like it's resonating with me and my ideas. Why? Mindset, preoccupation, how the day went. It's really hard to tell what's happening. I'm curious how this sounds. Interesting. I love chimes. I'll record everything that I find here. So you saw that this disappeared. That's because I deleted this and this channel was looking for operator and it disappeared, so it got confused. So that happens and can be a little bit annoying, but it's what the computer does and you have to deal with it. So let's see what this one goes for. Nah, that's a definite no. I find it interesting that sometimes people are a little bit confused about envelopes, and I myself, it took me a little while to kind of understand exactly what they are and what they do. But the envelope is basically the shape of the sound. So when we say the attack here is slow or fast, that's how fast your sound will start. So for instance, a kick as a really fast attack. Fast attack because it just hits, boom. If a sound doesn't hit, then it has a slow attack. So a good way to picture that is, and kind of an image that I got in my head to really understand the concept was a kick, you know, or a punch. It's something, it comes in fast, all of a sudden, and boom, hits you right away. So that's a fast attack. So imagine Bruce Lee. And a yawn, when you yawn, it's like you open the mouth really slowly, and that's like a slow attack, and then it ends faster. So fast release. So the kick has like a really fast attack, like it starts right away, and then it goes, it slowly fades. No, not slowly, quickly fades. So we'll shape the sound. I don't like the sound at all, but I want to show this. This is more percussive. And if I do this, you also have to look at what you're aiming for, because all these have like different attacks. There's something in here that I like. There's some kind of mysterious feeling, which in music in general, I find that a mysterious vibe is one of the most difficult things to do in music, because you can easily be cheesy, like ooh, spooky, and that doesn't, for me, doesn't work. and you could fall into a really dark mode, like and that's also mysterious, but it's dark and it kind of brings in comfort. It works for certain genres, but that's not the vibe I want to go for. I want to go for something a bit mysterious, like, oh, something's gonna happen, but I don't know what it is. And usually, my experience is when I perform music, that kind of mood works really well with captivating people's attention really quickly. So when I come in studio and I make music, I want to work on what works well with people when I play live, and I want to kind of translate my experience of live to to my music that I'm gonna release. Now you say, okay, I don't have your experience, and I don't know what tone I want. So a good thing that you can do is import a reference track. A reference track is something that, if you read my blog, if you have followed videos that I've done, and if you follow my group, it's something that I always come to, and people are sometimes a little bit fed up of hearing about reference tracks. But a reference track is something extremely useful. It helps you understand kind of the goal. And one time someone asked me, do I need a reference track to make music? I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. But let's put it this way. If you're someone that paints or draw, and if you want to draw a house, and if you do it from what you have in mind, you're going to draw a house, but it's going to be, maybe a bit off or a bit weird, or it might be a bit difficult. But if you have a picture of a house and you draw a house, then you're going to be like constantly referencing to that and be like, okay, this is where I'm going. So now the objection is, if I have a reference track, am I copying this track? No, you're not. Even when I try to copy a song exactly like it's done, it's going to be different. And I mean, that's me. And it might be you as well. So at this point, it might be cool to have a reference track. There's different things that we can do. And I'm going to come here, and I'm going to look for reference tracks. I'm going to do it from the Finder because it's going to be faster this way. I'm going to go in my clients. I'm going to go for Kike. Kike as some reference from Archie Hamilton that I really like what he does. And I'm just going to simply drag and drop it in Ableton. And yes, you can do that. The only thing is, I don't want this to be playing at the same time as my song. I want to be playing when I'm going to solo it. And I want it to be out through the external out, not through the master. For the reason is, if I put some effects on the master for XYZ reason, I don't want my reference to be affected by that. And also, since this is mastered, I'm going to drop it. The beauty of live, it's gonna warp it, and it's gonna put it on 124, and if I play it, I have to play it. So my reference can be playing at the same time as my track if I want. If you're using a reference track, one thing that you can do is you can jam over it and you can interact with it just as much as like a DJ plays your track with something else. I mean, in this case scenario, I want this track to be enjoyable for DJs. I want DJs to be playing this track, and I want them to enjoy layering this with something else. So, like there's limitations. Maybe I don't want it to be too busy. Maybe I want it to have a really good intro so that it can be layered. So, like there's different ideas that I need to come up with. And, this is where it's going to be useful to do that. So I'll listen to it. So he's starting with a clap. And he's adding already, the that's not one of the walls of the house that we were talking about. That's not like a main idea. That's what I call decoration. Decoration in the music process and how we're going to be working on things. is going to be the last thing. These things are sort of details that people get lost in right from the beginning. They're like, oh, I want this effect and da 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 da. So it's more important to draft your idea and then from there add the layers and eventually add the decoration. So I'm gonna still come back to my main idea that I still haven't found. I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna record this. And the fizzing part is interesting. That's, as it says, harsh. That could be fun. As you see, I'm really attracted to kind of sine wave sounds, xylophone vibes. Those are things that I like. Aha. So this is the melody probability. It's a pack that comes with Ableton. I didn't expect that. I didn't know it was in this preset because I've never opened this preset before. So it's a happy surprise. And at the same time, I kind of know how it works, but I haven't really explored it so much. So one thing that I like about using presets is that sometimes you have these Easter eggs where you get something like that and you really didn't know. So it can be like fun to see where that leads to. That's not what I want. I'm gonna go. That could be interesting. You'll be surprised of how this can be something pretty interesting once I start playing with it. I'll show you how. Gonna randomize this. Maybe changing the envelope. See, this I didn't see at first. I like that. Just gonna make sure I'm recording this thing. And that's not number 2, that's number 3, this one. There we go. I recorded some sounds, and one thing in sound design that I find fascinating is if you take any sounds out there, sounds are different layers of multiple sounds, and this is why in Operator you have 4 oscillators, and the 4 combined will create a new sound. So one of the things that I'm doing right now is collecting sounds that I'm going to layer later on. It's more important to understand what you're doing than to judge where this is going. So this is a good example. I'm going to continue exploring. I'm going to go in percussive and see what we have. Synth, let's see here. Again, the input, I have to go here. Definitely not. That's super interesting and out of nowhere. I had never used this before. Oh, no way. Okay. So I'm gonna record this. Oh, that sounds too complicated. So you see, it's very how can I say? It takes a lot of time, right? I think, you know, someone that has never made electronic music will be a little bit unsettled by how much time does it takes to really find what you want. And as you see, I'm not even diving in trying to change the parameters in there. I'm sort of like throwing ideas and listening to sounds and see what comes out.